time. And no public input, so we'll move on down to Mr. Calhoun's superintendent's report.
Okay. Item A is our funding update, just to give you an update on our bus ridership. You know, each year we do a bus count, sort of like a sample 1 week out of the year, and that determines the funding for the next year, not this year, but for the next year. And, last year we were up, when we did our bus count, we were up quite a bit, which increased our funding this year, and the year before we covered it from fund balance, which you can't continue doing that. And then this year, we were down 60 students that rode the bus this year. But, we do have one less bus. We did pull a bus off the road because we put an extra one on last year out of fund balance money. So how will that affect us next year? We'll get less, but not a tremendous amount less. So we just want to make the board aware that we did have a 60 student less count on bus ridership this year. And it's always just like a picture from that week is how they choose that. Second item is the federal shutdown. A lot of eyes. How does that affect the school system? It does a lot because federal programs are funded ahead of time. So when we received our funding in July, it actually funded us for the entire year. The only effect that we have seen personally, straightforward, is the after-school snacks for our after-school program. That funding did cease. And so Heather has reached out to another group to see if there are snacks available that they could help supplement that. But that's the only hurt that we've seen so far, and don't expect any more from the federal shutdown. State budget, no update there. There's still no state budget, nothing to report on there. Move to item B, field trips. We have 4 field trips on there. The FFA National Convention to Indianapolis, we've done that before. The senior trip to Disney Universal, that's been a repeat trip. HOSA Health Careers Day, and the FBLA National Fall Leadership Conference is in Arizona. And we've always approved those 4. I know the FBLA will moves different places every year, but they represent us very well, and I recommend all 4 trips for approval. I didn't have an asterisk by it, but I should have had. Sorry.
I understood that.
Yeah.
So, any question, discussion on the 4 field trips that are mentioned? If not, that motion, we approve the FFA National Convention in Indianapolis, senior trip to Disney Universal, HOSA to Healthcare Career Days, and FBLA National Fall Leadership Conference in Arizona. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Turn over to Mr. Huskins for facility updates.
So we are in the middle of a few pretty good-sized projects right now in the county schools. I want to just show you a few pictures, try to keep it brief so you can see kind of where we are. Our central office update right now, we're in the planning phase. We've done an initial budget, and that budget will then go out with bidding for each individual piece of work that will have to go on with the central office renovation project. I have these 2 pictures for you to see. The one on the left is a mock-up of what walking into the central office will look like in Mitchell County Schools, hopefully in about 16 to 18 months. That'll be the entry point on the left, and then the new boardroom where you're sitting right now will be on the right. Hopefully a larger, cleaner, nicer space. Right now, the only drawbacks that we're running into right now is always trying to make sure our budget is where it needs to be. And we did find out from the architecture company that when they met with the inspection, that there could be a chance we end up having to sprinkle the building. If we have to sprinkle the building, that is going to make it difficult for our budget to work. So we are trying to look at that and how we can pull everything together and make it all come out the way it needs to.
Is it because of the number of people in the boardroom, or the number of people in the building, or do you know the specifics of that, Mr. Payne?
That's a great question, Mr. Pittman. I don't know exactly why, because we were told originally that it would not need to be sprinkled. But we are looking at other measures that can be done. done,
Yeah.
fire doors and other ways that might be more cost efficient,
Yeah.
rather than trying to sprinkle the whole building.
Did anybody show them the next door neighbor?
And that's my thoughts, is if there's any workarounds around that, on sprinkling, because that is very costly.
Yes. But we are excited. We're gonna start, trying to work toward moving out, after Christmas. The projected date of around March 1st to April 1st of when construction would actually begin. The needs-based grant we applied for a few weeks ago. I went ahead and included the actual document that we filled out, turned in. I appreciate Mr. Pittman coming in and signing, and also Mr. Harding, the county commissioners, coming in and signing for us to apply for the $62 million. And that was to renovate Googe at the high school and at Greenlee. That would be totally redoing Googe Elementary and then renovation at the other two schools. I have those packets if any of y'all would like to see them. We do have the cost breakdown and what that would look like. The $62 million would not cover the entire totality of the project, but it would cover a majority, around 80% of the project to get that taken care of. We are hopeful that at least out of the needs-based grant, we could rebuild Googe. We are hopeful that that will go through and give us an opportunity for that. We also, Ms. Gregory was able to locate and work on a grant that we feel like we're going to be maybe hopeful for in the coming future, which would help us in our CT program turn Harris Middle School into a career and technical education center. This is the mock-up of what we're looking at there for potential in the future. We have went ahead and done our homework as far as trying to get proposals ready, so when that money does come available, we can be first in line. We have had Mountain Community College already sign off that they would partner with us in this project, and we're excited about them, and also local business that is excited for this CT center to possibly come to fruition. That would be basically taking down half of Harris and demolishing that, and then adding a center for HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and home building on that site.
So the county commissioners are very interested in that also. I'm gonna check with him at some point to see if they can help out.
Yeah, it's fine. I think Mr. Calhoun has gotten approval from everyone that's been involved as far as wanting to be a part of that. So. Lastly, the athletic complex, we're hoping to open up here in a couple weeks. Here are a few pictures I took today if you haven't been up. Hopefully by the end of the week, which we have tomorrow, he's not gotten here yet, but you'll see this on the side of the building. That's the building from the outside. This is the wrestling room, and then the gym floor here. Then on the other side, we have the turf. We have a golf simulator now that's put up and working, and then our weight room on the side. So if you haven't been up and seen it yet, pretty amazing building. We're very fortunate that we have something of this nature here in Mitchell County to support our kids with. We're hoping to pull off the grand opening here by mid-November, so that we can have everyone in and walk them through. We do have a temporary CO right now. The CO will be finalized once a couple more things get completed by our contractor. The only issue that we're having right now with finalization on this, I'm sure some of you might hear about it, so I want to make sure that you know everything. When we were cleaning the brick off with water, one of the doors was not sealed in the gym, and water ran under the doorway and under the gym floor and got some moisture under it, which caused it to buckle in a couple of places. So they are working currently right now. They're unloading wood at 2 o'clock today up there to replace the gym floor wood that had buckled in one corner.
That's when the contractors were cleaning, we weren't cleaning. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. My fault. So we're all in one now, once you've been through so many meetings, it feels like, but yeah, it was the contractor. That was before we actually got the temporary CO. But we do have that issue, and then we're adding some LVT to the hallways to make it look nicer, and a few other small things that we've been working with to dress it up and make it look good. So if any of you would like to see it, you're welcome to come by. We'd be happy to take you on a tour or whatever you need, but we will be doing that grand opening probably around mid-November. Any questions?
one thing I want to mention, since we're online with the public and for those that are in the boardroom, all these projects were grant-funded projects with no taxpayer dollars. They were all written grants. And a lot of people say, well, why didn't you write the grants for something else? Well, that's what those grants were available for. They couldn't be written for anything else. And those grants were going to somebody, so I assume our taxpayers would rather for that to come to Mitchell County school students than to go to somebody else. So that's why the grants were written. They were all grant funded. There's no taxpayers' dollars in any of these projects. Totally grant funded, and the grants would have went somewhere. And the grants were restricted to projects like these. You couldn't say, okay, I would like to put 100,000 library books in the library. I'd love to also, but we've not found a grant that would pay for that yet. Not that we're not looking, because we are, but that's what these grants were for. So I think a lot of misconception gets out there in the public. You know, we're just spending the money on building. We're just spending the money on athletics. Well, no, we're not. We're writing grants for everything we can find. We've just been fortunate enough to get these grants that are specific to these areas and would go somewhere, and I'd a lot rather have them in Mitchell County than another county in the state of North Carolina. So we've been very fortunate to get a lot of money into Mitchell County that didn't cost taxpayers any money at all.
I think it's nothing short of amazing when I look at that, and I look when I was back in school. Of course, that was in the caveman days, I guess, but you looked at and you witnessed that, and it just blows my mind. And what Chad was saying, you know, about the grants and everything, you know, that's good, but it takes personnel within the school system, you know, to think of these things and to write those grants. So needs to be a lot of credit given there too. I mean, when I look at that, you know, it just blows my mind. I said, good gosh, I said, that's just like a university or something. I said, I don't know how many other high schools have a facility. And now, a certain gentleman over at Mountain Heritage was telling me, he said, how, he came up to me, and a good friend of mine, and I better not mention any name, but he coaches over there. But he said, how do you folks, how have you been able to come in to get your stadium, your football stadium? And I said, the complex, I said, well, don't forget this auxiliary gym that we've got up. Are you gonna have an auxiliary? I said, yes. But I said, the area that they've got for parking and their facilities, you know, they usually have good teams over there all the time, you know, Mountain Heritage and everything, but he said that their stadium, you know, their bleachers and everything else, you know, just, you know, they need new everything. I said, how'd y'all do it? And I said, well, there's grants, but I said they've worked hard, and he said, if you can give me any advice I can give on up the line. And I said, well, I talked to him a while, and I said, but then when I see this right here, when I hear this about this auxiliary gym, you know, I think, well, you know, it's gonna be an auxiliary gym, you know, hardwood floor or whatever. And then you see facilities like that, you know, where you can practice football on inclement weather or whatever, and, you know, basketball, extra basketball. I hope y'all forgive me. I mean, I can go on and on, but it just blows my mind.
Yeah, we're very excited about all of our projects. The athletic, you know, it's not just for athletes. The band can use it, cheerleaders, baseball, softball, golf, soccer, basketball's mentioned, wrestling. There's so many groups that can use it, football, as you mentioned. So it's for all of our students. It's not just for athletes only. So it's going to be available for all students.
Yeah, we're on athletics. Quartz Court came over to the Harris Stadium that we redid, back in 2001 or whatever. They had come in and they took the two ends and took the metal pieces off and just left the concrete there. People can put chairs, and they refurbished all the bleachers. And that looks great.
It looks great. I was over there today. It looks good.
It looks good, doesn't it?
You know, we also have the press box and the field house painted.
Yes, it looks
Took the blue
wonderful.
off and tried to go with purple, so.
But we're talking about grants, I mean, and I'll just take a minute to brag on this team up and down this hall. The number of grants that this team writes per year, I would say would be in the hundreds. Now, do we get every grant? No. Do we get 10%? Sometimes it's a lot less than that. But when we're fortunate enough to get these grants, that's what it means to Mitchell County Schools. And we've been, and I will brag on Risa, our Risa Group, Jan Webster. She hired, through some money that they acquired, a person who actually sends us places where grants are available. And we've been sending that out to teachers, we've been sending it out to principals, and then CO staff. So we've been able to find even more grants to write. Lots of times it was just us searching for them. And sometimes you just don't have all that time of the day to search for them. And now he's sending those out, and he sends out just about a weekly email of a list of grants. And then I turn around and send it out to principals and CO staff. And so we're writing them all the time. And that's what you have to do to survive in public schools now. The grants is what keeps us going. So we'll keep writing and hopefully keep receiving and get good news.
When you start up this road, I didn't realize, I hadn't been up to the stadium and looked around and everything. When you start up this road, you see our middle school, we're gonna have this building redone, and then you go over there and see the baseball field, and the softball field, and the high school looks great. You go on up to that football stadium, and then you have auxiliary gym, and I tell you, it's almost overwhelming to see what Mitchell County has.
And
I want to
hopefully,
thank you and the team and everybody else for doing that for us.
hopefully in a few years,
I mean,
have a
it's
new
through your
elementary
leadership
school,
that
a
we've
new
done this.
CTE school, and
Mm-hmm.
a refurbished high school. So,
It's beautiful.
yeah. Sidewalk up and down the road, that's
Yeah.
coming. That's been needed a long
It's better
time.
than what small colleges have.
Yeah.
You all know this, as I've told you many times, you are the envy of the whole region for a lot of these things. I have clients that I go to that are similarly situated and just are their mind are blown too, that you have got what you managed to do in facilities. And I don't know anybody who's got a golf simulator like that. Incidentally, is there a sign-up sheet for that? I'm asking for a friend.
That's close session.
Come early, come early.
Certain donations will get you around that.
Brenda, it's like you said, though, years ago, you go to a place like that, you go to some other schools, and you look at some of their facilities, and you say to yourself, boy, I wish we had
Me
something like
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That would be good.
But I guarantee you could ask one question. You could walk up and down this hall and ask every employee up in this hall why we do this. It's not for recognition, it's for the kids. We see our kids and their needs in this county, and that's why we do it. That's the whole reason we do it, is because
We're used
it's
to
better
doing
for our
more.
kids.
We've always done more with less.
Yeah, we have. Okay, Ms. Gregory?
The first thing I have is our school tour coming up October 23rd for our school board, our commissioners, our towns from Bakersfield and Spruce Pine. So if you've not let me know if you're able to attend that, it's next Thursday. We'll start here at 8:30. It's going to be a quick and jam-packed day. So we'll start at 8:30. We will, I'll send you a schedule, but we do also that morning when we're at Greenlee, we'll be part of the Apple Distinguished School Celebration. They have worked hard to become an Apple Distinguished School, which is a huge honor. And so they will be presented that day with their banner and everything for that. So we'll do that at Greenlee as part of the tour, and then we'll finish at the high school that day with lunch. So if you have not let me know if you are able to attend, if you will let me know after the meeting today, so we can get final numbers for lunch and make a plan for our transportation. The next thing I have is school improvement plans. So in the accountability data this year, Malin Early College ended up an A school again. Mitchell High School was a C school, and Mitchell Elementary and Mitchell Middle School were D schools. And
Did
that's
you say that again? Mitchell Elementary was what?
Let's see, Mitchell Elementary and Mitchell Middle were both D schools. Mitchell High was a C school, and Malin Early College was an A school. So, 52 days when they missed, 52 days of in-person instruction, and we ended up with the elementary and middle school on the low-performing list. I don't know that last year was last year's year, that they did all that they possibly could do when the kids were in the building to help them. But that's where we are. So on your agenda linked are the school improvement plans. So as part of low performing schools, there's a list of things that have to be done. So these are the school improvement plans for the elementary school and the middle school. So tonight, we won't be approving those tonight, I think, because they have to be, you all have to have them until the next meeting. They have to be posted on the website for any parent input. Letters have to be sent home to the parents, and then that will be, approval of those will come at the November meeting. So these are just, both are linked. You can see the elementary school, their goals: increase reading proficiency school-wide, increase math proficiency school-wide, reduce office referrals, increase student engagement by 25%, which will be measured by participation in school activities, academic performance, and behavior data, and decrease the number of chronically absent students by 25%. The middle school goals: by the end of the academic year, 60% of students will demonstrate mastery on common formative assessments aligned to key standards as a result of consistent implementation of the common instructional framework strategies by all core content teachers. By the end of the school year, 90% of students will maintain a 95% or higher attendance rate, reducing chronic absenteeism, which is missing 10% or more of school days, by at least 20% compared to the previous year. And by the end of the school year, the number of office discipline referrals recorded in Educator's Handbook increased by 25% compared to the previous school year, with no more than 10% of students receiving multiple referrals. So Christy is here tonight if you have any questions to start. So you can, Christy?
Yeah. Mr. Hall and I are working very hard on our teaming systems to support our students and do wraparound support. We're meeting, weekly on looking at data, looking at attendance, looking at behavior, completing walkthroughs every day. Our teachers are teaching, the students are engaged. I've seen some amazing lessons this year, and so, yeah, we're working very hard to come up to standard.
Well, Ms. Audrey, I would like to say is, last year, we just came off COVID. Then we went straight into the storm right as we opened the school. And I think to pull out a D would be a miracle, with what you went through. And I mean, honestly, y'all went to the homes, you personally were in the homes, and all the principals and teachers in the central office, and what y'all did during that hurricane with Helene is incredible. And, you took care of the needs, the psychological needs, and the physical needs of the children and their families and their neighbors, not just the kids. You checked on everyone, y'all made sure everyone was accounted for. We did not lose a child, thank goodness. And I think y'all, we need to do some things. Everybody needs improvement. I don't care even if you're an A school, you still can find ways to improve. But, don't beat yourself up. I mean, I think y'all did a heck of a job.
And I'll reiterate what Mr. Ingram says, you can't pick on Mr. Hall for not being here. But in all seriousness, not only the double whammy, the students you're working with, and even our high school, they hit with COVID, then the storm, but then also it throws even the flu season and the stomach bug, and it's thrown all of that into a whirlwind. We see things out of season that we normally wouldn't see. There's sickness right now that is affecting older kids that normally doesn't affect older kids. You see it in primary school. Yeah, it's made there so many challenges. I will say, I really do think that we have some of the best teachers in Mitchell County schools. And we've had these conversations every year, even when our schools were performing higher to these matrix. that those matrix are not a true picture of what's taking place in the classroom. So you can't look at that, unfortunately, I don't think it's a fair gauge of what is taking place in our classroom and what our students are gaining. I do think there is the challenge that you all face, that you have age groups that miss critical points of instructional class time. And what nothing you can do about that. You're doing everything you can to try to get caught back up and get them those skills and to teach that, and I think we've got some of the best teachers doing that, and I appreciate what you, Mr. Howell, and your teams underneath you are doing. So walk out with your head up, not down.
Appreciate it.
You know, it's like you said, Brandon, that people, a lot of people, the general public does not realize, you know, everything that's happened. I mean, when that storm hit, you know, if you'd have had $5, I know one thing, you know, when it hit and I was downtown on that bridge looking around down there, and I said, well, had $5, had $1 million or something, and you say, well, I've got to get me some gasoline, I got to go to get me some gasoline. He said, Hammer, you can't get any gasoline, it's pretty something. And I said, well, I go to Burns and get it. No, Burns was gone. We go to Bakersfield. No, Bakersfield was gone. Well, what about Newton? Newton was gone. But from a standpoint of being, what do I do? You know, a dollar bill won't buy, what do I do? What have I got to do? And then the way that things happen, but people that, when everything that the school system did, churches and everything else, basically the school system, over and above, people just don't realize, the general public just does not realize how much extra over and above, like, you know, you're saying, how over and above and everything that went on. I mean, and the organization that they had, and God's hand had to be, you know, there. It had to be there foremost, and it still, you know, you think about all that right there, and it's still, and I think like somebody said, you'll talk with, said people in this area that went through it will talk about it for 10 or 20 years until you talk it out of you, or whatever it is, because it's still, when it hits, you know, and so many times after that, you'd see some dark clouds coming over, and I said, oh my gosh, it's getting cloudy, you know. And you get a doggone, but then the first anniversary, I know I kept a record of the numbers of the days, you know, the first anniversary. And come around to there, you know, it's the 360 days, and I just said, you know, but it's, don't mean to rattle on. I mean, those guys said a lot better than what I could have, but it's.
No, some of you out there still a lot of trauma that's being done.
Well, I'm just glad that they went through and did what they did to find the children, not to find the children and run up and say, here, you need to do this work. You know?
What'd you say?
I said, I'm glad they did the way they did, and they went to find the children and saw about their needs, rather than say, here you are, you need to do this packing work.
Our primary, their primary
Yes.
concern is life and safety.
Yes.
It still is. You still have a lot of kids living in.
Well, they went back to the car, did that?
Yeah, we're hoping that DPI will listen to superintendent's recommendations. The measuring, and Jennifer agreed with this, the measure 6 is not fair. Elementary and middle schools do test all students, 100% of their students. And then they have more checklists that they have to go by. So it's not a fair system. And they don't compare kids to kids. They compare third grade to third grade the year before, and you can't do that. And hopefully one day they'll come up with a true measuring system that truly works. But right now, I wouldn't put a lot of faith in that at all.
I watched one today, a check-in that was required for a child, and it blew my mind. It was so far, I'm sorry, it was nothing we do, it's just what we have to do.
As Mr. English mentioned too, and Mr. Pittman mentioned about the storm, how it affected kids, I think it affected our elementary and younger kids a lot worse too, because it's something they've never seen anything like this.
When it clouds up.
It's
my
scary.
grandson does just what Sam said. He sees those dark clouds coming, it scares him.
Yeah. And you think about those little minds. So Vita walked in here today and said, Papa, we did a lockdown drill today, and I was shaking. I mean, that's a pre-K student to even think about the things they have to go through today. It worries them. Closed session, Jerry?
All right, have a motion, we move the board into closed session for Attorney Clock Privilege, personnel, apologies, yes, personnel, student issue,
I'll make that motion.
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye. We'll just get that done when we get excited. I think it's gonna run a lot.
No, it doesn't, it's scary, it's scary.
Now I'm getting scared, we get no room.
Yeah.
Scared of
But
both sides.
you're right, we didn't get any.
We did.
We did.
Like a month.
We got a lot of fuel
You know,
going
it
on
is
around.
around, I tell people,